was out of the out of the mug. That was a very weird travel.
Do you know what that sounded like?
That sounded like
that sounded like a toddler drinking water, bro. That's what that sounded like. You know when they do
Listen,
that tight lip.
listen. I want uppies. Uppies. Cause someone could pick my big ass. Someone picked my big ass up.
It's been so long since I've had uppies. What's up, bro?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. But you're not at home.
I am not. No, I am away on military business right now.
On official Air Force business.
On official Air Force business. Yeah.
That's airspace and cyberspace.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. So next couple of recordings are kind of have to be like this. Hopefully my headset is right.
We haven't
checked, but
your headset actually sounds pretty decent because I know when we have like other guests on and they have like crappy mics and stuff like that, it's always that echo, fuzzy, whatever. Yours doesn't have that echo. It's not bad.
Really,
it's not bad for a headset mic, dude. Like at all.
This was like a cheap headset I bought like at like a Walmart or Best Buy like years ago. Like it was like $40, $50, $60. I don't know. Because like I know a lot of people have like those $300 headsets and they're like super Gucci nice. And I wanted to get one, you know, especially since I got that settlement from that car crash. But I was like, I'm gonna be smart with my money.
And don't you hate it when you have to do that? Like even these headphones that I have on right now, these are the most expensive Turtle Beaches I've ever paid for, and they were like $80.
Yeah,
I don't really go because I'm not a crazy online gamer. All I need is the dynamic range and the surround sound, and I'm good, bro. Like I can live with it right now. But apparently, have you been playing Silent Hill 2 remake at all?
I have not.
Neither have I, man.
Just been playing Spider-Man 2018.
Dude, it's funny. It's funny that you've been playing. Dude, I love how well that thing runs on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, no,
I'm impressed.
I brought my Steam Deck back out, and now that I'm on the road and I have so much more, you know, time to just pop it out and start playing. So you gotta tell me some games to buy that are more Steam Deck things. 'Cause I literally just finished maybe like I don't know, maybe about an hour or two ago. The Ultimate. So I mean I still have to 100% it, but I mean I'll do that later. So yeah, give me some Steam Deck games, people.
Dude,
in the comments, you tell me some, yeah, all that.
I will always preach that Sea of Stars is like the perfect Steam Deck game.
Oh,
I think that JRPG style, or even that like brand of game. Oh, you know what? You would have probably liked, dude. Octopath Traveler 1 or 2. They're long for what they are, though. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna lie. I played Octopath Traveler 2 first. I'm like 36 hours in, and I was like, when does this freaking end? It's like a 60-hour game. It really is, dude. And I was like, oof, yeah, and it takes you by surprise. But the visual, I like the HD 2D thing that Square Enix is doing.
I could have sworn I saw that for sale. It didn't look like that expensive. It was 60 hours?
Octopath Traveler 2, it came out last year. And, dude, yeah, it's great. I don't think it's anything like crazy to write home about, but it is great. I would use the adjective great, not greatest or anything like that. Like it's well made. The voice acting is surprisingly good for this little JRPG that Square Enix puts out. But like games like that are perfect for the Steam Deck, bro. It makes your Steam Deck like a Game Boy on crack. And don't get me wrong, I still recommend a lot of like 3D games that are really good. I actually really like the Steam Deck for older games as well. Like the PlayStation 3 generation of games.
Oh my god!
Because it just runs so smooth. Like I played all of BioShock Infinite, which, by the way, after I finished it recently, is a crazy game, and I don't see why it was so underappreciated as a BioShock game. Maybe I'm ignorant, but it ran perfectly on the Steam Deck, perfectly, and it'd be just something about that threshold. Dishonored, I have Dishonored for my Steam Deck. It runs beautifully.
Dishonored is good. I have to replay Dishonored. Those were like,
dude. After I've grown more as a gamer,
You
and I've
appreciate it more.
appreciated and understood it. You appreciate it more. Not that it
Yeah.
was underappreciated then, but like you go
Right.
back and you think of like the mechanics. I'm also, dude, the Steam Deck has allowed me to evolve like my gaming genre. I have been adamant that I'm not a Metroidvania fan, but for some reason, dude, I started with the Ori games. Ori, I can never remember the first one, dude. It's like astonishing how I can never remember the first. Ori and the Birth of the Erd Tree. No.
Okay. Sure.
And then Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which is the second one. And then I was like, you know what? The side-scrolling Metroidvania thing, I kind of like it. So then I tried Blasphemous, and I fell in love, dude. I so much so that the gift card from my brother
Mhm.
for Amazon, I bought the collector's edition of Blasphemous 2.
Hey, okay.
And I love it, dude. I don't know what it is about the aesthetic, the music, the gameplay, the Souls-like elements. I love the Blasphemous games. If you're into Metroidvanias, and so,
I'll have
but
to look at that.
my
I've been oh well last thing I've been considering, because one of my great friends, he has been on my ass about playing Resident Evil games, because I haven't really played like any of them.
so I will
So
tell you,
yeah.
I played a vast majority of Resident Evil 4 remake
Right.
on my Steam Deck,
Yeah,
and it
and
ran at
apparently
60
apparently
FPS.
it was amazing. It's fantastic and stuff. And I was like, hey, now that I have my Steam Deck, now that I have all the, well, I don't have all this time, but I do have some time. That's a little bit um more of me just sitting there. Otherwise, I'd just be sitting there, kicking my feet. So I might hop on some Resident Evil, give that a little try.
I think it's prime a prime time idea for the Steam Deck. Obviously, you're
Yeah,
not going to get the greatest visual fidelity,
sure.
but I will say that, dude, the Resident Evil 4 remake surprisingly gorgeous on the Steam Deck and surprisingly well made, well distributed. But what I will say, in the now that we're 7 minutes in, let's get to the topic. Uh, video games, man, it's what we love to be.
I know,
Um,
right?
it's kind of weird why this topic came to mind for me. Actually, is because I was on Twitter, as you know, healthy people do, and
Can't
I
do
was
it,
on
man.
Twitter. Yeah, I know. I was on. I trend Twitter so we can talk about things,
I
and
feel you.
that's probably a terrible idea. Um, but one of the rumors that popped up was that Insomniac is not releasing DLC for Spider-Man 2,
Yes, I did
and
hear about that.
it didn't break my heart, but it did for some reason that night. I think it's because I was right about to go to bed or whatever. It
Mhm.
dug a rabbit hole in my brain. Like one point of conversation in my brain led to another. So I was initially like, damn, no Spider-Man 2 DLC. It doesn't break my heart, but I essentially was like, well, I really liked the Spider-Man 1 DLCs.
Oh yeah,
Quite a
yeah,
bit,
yeah.
actually. They're not the greatest thing ever written, but like I liked them quite a bit.
I
And
enjoyed
they
them.
expanded on the universe a little bit more, and Black Cat's cool and all these things. And then that got me thinking, like, well, why not DLCs? Well, what happened there? Well, the Insomniac leaks probably played a factor, and then Insomniac layoffs did happen. We forget that sometimes. And then, basically, to make a long story longer, I guess, but it got me thinking of like all of the weird practices and stuff that we see in video games today. And just the main thing that I asked myself before I went to bed was like, how did we get here? And we're probably going to talk a lot of negative right now,
Right.
but I don't want that question to overall be negative, because when I say how did we get here, I'm just simply wondering genuinely the exactly what I mean when I ask the question, how did we get here? I was looking at my PlayStation 2 catalog, and I'm looking at all these great games. I'm looking at God of War 1, 2.
Right.
I'm looking at Shadow of the Colossus, the original Resident Evil 4. I'm looking at some of the Ratchet and Clanks. I'm looking at all these games that I played growing up. And I thought to myself, there's no microtransactions. There's no season pass. These aren't live service. This isn't, we're not Fortnite adjacent. None of these people are, plastered over social media the way that they are today.
Right.
It's just a fascinating thing. So not only am I asking you, like, how did we get here, but what do you think here is? Where are we at?
I I think we are at a place where it's a dangerous place to be, because I mean, I will be the first one to say that I think that that creativity um is suffering in our culture, but it's strongest, I will say, in gaming right now. But it's being shackled by I mean, you could just say you could say it's being shackled by greed, by corporate greed, by or just by the fact that they they have us by the balls because we forgive my crudeness, but like for example, if they told us, if they told us that they were releasing a Spider-Man DLC, right? Like let's say that these developers, that Insomniac had planned to just release all of their Spider-Man content on Spider-Man 2's disc, and give it to us, for how much was it, 79.99 for $80, uh, straight up. Like we would have been cool with that, but like even if they just gave us a third of the game and then gave us the last 25%, um well, that's not that's terrible math, but they gave us the last 25% and they said that, hey, you just got to pay us another $30 and you can finish the whole game, so that they know we're going to pay. And if you're looking at it strictly business sense, yeah, that. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I would do if I had a product, and I'd be like, well, you can make some more money that way. But in a way, it makes the consumer um have a type of resentment towards developers, um which could stifle people from from becoming from being regular gamers to becoming developers, or like adding stuff to the which could be great. um and it incentivizes more bad behavior. Well, I won't say bad behavior, but it incentivizes undesirable practices in in the eyes of the consumer, um from the executives who pocket all that money. So because of that system that we've been currently been in for the last, I don't even know, 15 years now, I guess. Um we're in a place where developers are making games with that already in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and that could be a part of why some some narratives just are lacking already, because they already think like, well, we don't have to even finish the entire narrative while we don't even have to have the narrative in mind, like the end in mind as we create this. um
Suicide
because
Kill the
you,
Justice League.
you
Suicide Squad.
yeah, because our bosses and our bosses bosses are going to make us, um and this, like, they could want to, but they know that the bosses are going to be like, all right, well, find a great stopping point, in order to not they're not going to say to screw over, in order to maximize our profits and whatnot. And that could be a contributing factor to these. I don't want to say all misses, but like to some of these less than desirable results that we've been getting for the last couple of years. I don't know. It's a weird place. I don't like it. Um, but it's kind of like in the military. It's kind of like in the military where we see commanders making decisions to, like, for example, punish people, where it really negatively affects that individual. But when you step outside of, like, more of a personal thing, and you have to look at it like, as the entire squadron unit, like, type of thing, like, where the commander, it makes sense, like the commander has to make that decision and has to make that thing. So well, that's that's not a money thing, because that would just be that would be an operational thing. So I guess that's more figurable on the military side. But that's the first thing that came to my mind as I was talking. So
It's
yeah,
a relatable thing, or okay,
yeah,
I should say it's relatable to us or those
yeah,
who have been
sure,
in the military. But I think I agree with probably about 90% of what you said.
sure,
Um, not in total disagreement with the other 10%, but what I would say is like I would agree somewhat that you're right. Creativity is on its way out the door. But what I think it stems from is not because people have a lack of creativity. Um, I think it does stem from the idea of we have to adhere to the shareholders. It does stem
yeah,
from the idea of like big boss, big boss, big boss says this. I think it's what's going wrong with Ubisoft right now.
oh
We
yes,
cannot, we cannot in good conscience um, sit here and be like, Ubisoft, just putting the name Ubisoft sucks as a development. Totally not true. Not true. Have they been successful in the last few years? Shaky. Obviously, they're looking at a buyout and all this crazy stuff right now.
ooh,
Like that's like 10 cents might come in here. You know, stuff that is well above your and my pay grade as just major fans of video games. But I will say the problem is also I don't want to use the word ignorance because it sounds like an insulting term, but of basic video game fans, like you said, it brings disservice. We want to get angry at the developers. I know that's I'm paraphrasing you, of course,
right,
but
right.
you said angry at the developers. The developers. If there's any point I want to get across is that it's not the developers that are entirely the issue here, or even a majority of the issue. It is the bigger bosses and things that make it a big problem because developers are not the issue. These guys are the ones that are on like damn near teachers' salaries, crunching, working their asses off to make their creative vision come to life. It's some of the decisions that get down to business. That book I told you I was reading by Jason Schreier from a few years back, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels.
Right.
The most heartbreaking story is the chapter about the development of Star Wars 1313 and how it crumbled, and not because of it crumbled because of corporate. Like that's a pretty blanket statement. I highly recommend you go read at least that chapter of the book to get an understanding of what I'm saying. But it is corporate, and so because I think there is creativity and originality when you start looking at indie games right now. I was just bragging about Sea of Stars. They're their own publisher and they made it happen. And they made something great with, I'm not going to say total originality because obviously that game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, but indie games are exactly where the issue stems, is that there can be creativity without roadblocks. And I think that's the biggest issue and where we're at right now. But I do think, and again, we've said this multiple times, I hate blaming everything on Fortnite because you can't blame it on Fortnite. But like,
But you can't
Fortnite, but
watch.
I kind of want to, in a sense, blame it on Fortnite
Right.
because that was what stemmed this
Magic
whole
in a
money
bottle.
chasing idea. Yeah, dude, it's this idea that like money in a like a money tree is basically what they grew out of Fortnite. And no, it's not the first of its kind, but it's always going to be the example of its kind because it's just stupid successful. And maybe I'm crazy for saying this, but I also think it has damaged creativity because it adheres to a childhood audience that now when you talk to kids about video games, it is not like you and me talking video games. 12-year-old me and 12-year-old you talking about video games would probably sound more similar to what we do today.
Oh yeah.
Than we would like to think. Like, I played video games as a kid for stories, for narrative direction. It became art for me.
I was playing Jack and Daxter at 12. Yeah, so it's like
absolutely. I was probably not trying to be as sophisticated as I'm trying to be now, but like it's the same idea from a 12-year-old mindset. Whereas if you talk to a 12-year-old now, they're like, "How many V-Bucks does it cost?" You're like,
yeah. We were playing Halo. Wait, 12 years old? Yeah, I was playing Halo around there.
Right around, yeah.
R.I.P. I know, right?
I guess Halo Studios is here now, but
didn't the most recent, or when did that happen? Like something
Infinite.
happened like the most, huh?
Talking about Halo Infinite.
Yes,
live service.
Yeah.
Ruined it.
That's a dang shame.
I think personally, I think live service is the most toxic thing
I have to step away for just.
Ooh, sorry about that break.
And
Got
we're back.
a nice little phone call. The unfortunate side of being real people. You know what? You know what I just realized?
What's that?
I did not say the intro.
You didn't. I was
I did
actually
not.
gonna say that. I just thought about that too because you didn't say the.
This is a talk show / podcast where a couple of average Joes drink a cup of Joe, talk about pop culture and video games. God bless. Cannot believe I forgot that.
Where you don't have to take don't have to drink a cup with us, but it'll sure be nice if you do. Let us know.
Wow.
Let us know.
Make your dreams come true. What does Kamala say? Where today's tomorrow is yesterday's today, may be your tomorrow.
I don't know.
I'm not going to get political. My bad. I shouldn't have said that.
Oh my gosh.
May the dreams of your dreams be dreamt by your brain. Thank you.
What
was I saying? Something about corporate greed. No, I loved the way. Oh man, it's hard to get back into it. Oh man,
yeah,
I do love how you specifically speak on the lack of creativity, because we see it in movies and stuff now too. Because I would agree about 90% of the time, yes. But what I will say is some of these indie games from these just offbeat studios are proving that creativity is possible if they're given the chance to try it. I think that's a big piece. Is we've lost because we try to please shareholders. And don't get me wrong, I would be a hypocrite because I have said that I enjoy living in the world of remakes. But now, dude, I'm really starting to wonder. It's like, I love living in the world of remakes, but not if that's the only world of video games we have.
Yeah. I know, right?
Because that's where I'm concerned. I love a bunch of them too, but I liked it when it was like, here's your remake. Here's your God of War 3 remake, but also on the back burner, we got Horizon Zero Dawn, this new IP coming.
Yeah,
and now
that was cool.
I'm sitting here less than 10 years later, and I'm like, wow, what's the remake now? Horizon Zero Dawn?
Horizon Zero Dawn, like...
Yeah, apparently the what's the horror game that just had the remake? Oh my gosh. Until Dawn did not do well at all as a remake.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that release.
Yeah, and it was decently hyped up, but like the remakes, when I say I love the world of remakes, I love the idea of going back and remaking remaking older games that were hindered by the technology.
By the time of
That's the stuff I like. Like when they remade Shadow of the Colossus, that was a remake I get on board for. All the Resident Evil remakes are fantastic because they get a modernized version of that story. And even like the Resident Evil 4 remake is, plain and simple, probably one of the best third-person horror games ever made. Granted, apparently Silent Hill 2 remake is phenomenal right now too. I might actually get it now because of the strikingly impressive apologetic reviews of it being substantially better than anybody anticipated. So but that's good. I like that. But at the sacrifice of creativity.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to make a joke.
At the sacrifice of creativity, I'd be down to tone it down on the remasters and remakes because they're just doing it for quick cash grab. They're easier to make, they're cheaper to make, and they take less manpower, and they're just easy money. And
at this point, it's getting a little annoying because like they're remaking things that don't need to be remade. I'm sorry, but Horizon Zero Dawn is already a beautifully made game.
And it's not like
what do you need to remaster it for? For what?
Exactly.
Like, I'm sorry, it looks amazing still on my old, because I still have that PS4 monitor thing that I brought on the last deployment. Like it looked great on that. I don't know what to tell you. Like, sure, it probably would look better on my PS5 and on my newer TV, but like it would be so minuscule I wouldn't even notice because of the why.
And I think another thing that's good for remakes is game preservation. Giving people an opportunity to play these games.
Like, okay, if they remade, or remade, remastered, um, Fallout 2. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Fable 2. I would go
Yeah,
out and buy an Xbox. Like
right.
I loved those games. Actually,
It's
no.
it's
If they would just release it for PC, that's what I would do.
yeah,
But
and these it's for preservation. I'm down, and for older things like
yeah.
I would
What
love.
about Tarzan? What about Tarzan for the Game Boy? Remember that
Ugh,
incredibly difficult game that if you
dude, the
died, you
Lion King.
started all the way over.
Dude, Game Boy games. Dude, I feel like
Yeah.
people forget old. Did you ever play the old Toy Story game?
Toy Story, Toy
The
Story.
very first
I
Toy
played it
Story
on
game
PlayStation, the one on PlayStation. Was there one on Game Boy?
on the Game Boy. It was so dang frustrating because the level
Was
where
it?
you're on the Pizza Planet is where I died all the dang time as a kid, and it
No.
restarts you. Same with the old
Oh, the
Jurassic
one.
Park. The
Yes.
old
Oh
Jurassic
my
Park
God.
was a 2D
Uh,
platformer, like a Metroidvania type. Well, not Metroidvania, but it was a
yeah.
platformer, like an old school Game Boy game. And dude, people. I love how we have a genre for it now. It's roguelikes, but it's
Yeah.
like that was just video games back then, bro. Like you
Like
started over
all
when
the way over from the
all the way,
start. Like that's just like remember the
dude. In
old
these,
the for the Game Boy Color, the I think it was like I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was the second, not the first, but the second um Power Rangers.
yes,
Oh my, I
yes.
loved that game, but that game was brutal. If you died, if any one of the Rangers died, yeah, that was it. Like you were just like, whoa, you just lost that Ranger now. You're like, bro,
This
what?
game over had a way different sentiment. So and this is those things, dude. Like we've advanced in great ways for
Yeah,
video games. Don't get me wrong, dude. I am not one of these people that is like the industry's dead. We have
yeah,
nothing going on. Like I just and it's hard. Like I started this week and said we were going to have a depressing conversation a little bit because we're mainly here to talk about the negatives that came out of like how did we get here, and it's it's hard because I have so much nostalgia in games now, and I
mm,
feel like I'm not old enough to be doing that yet. I feel like I shouldn't be playing a game and then being like, remember when I didn't have to pay for the fucking season pass? Like I hate it now. And it didn't used to bother me because there's always the idea of like if you don't like it, don't buy it. And I
right.
totally agree with that. But who the hell out there keeps buying these things that make it become a thing? I think it's so sad that like we talk about Assassin's Creed, right? Their delay. One of the big pieces of news is they're getting rid of the season pass and they're taking $50 off the collector's edition.
Right.
Well, okay, video games didn't have season passes back in the day.
This
So you're
is
just
supposed
telling
to be
me
a
it's a
single player
game.
game. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Like, so
And
you mean it's what
magically,
the hell's?
yep,
Yeah,
it's just a game now, which was all I was going to treat it as in the first place. And then
right,
$50 after your collector's edition. Oh, congrats. Now your collector's edition is $220 instead of the 280 or whatever it was.
right,
It, when back in the day, most collector's editions were like 100, 115 at the most. And that's if you're into that kind of thing. I genuinely question of like, how did we get to this moment where even your sports games now, that like I used to be into Madden when I was younger, when it was a little more arcadey and a little, a
yeah.
little less hectic. Madden is full of microtransactions and like fantasy league stuff, and it, it, it not that I'm gonna advocate so much for sports games. But it's the fact that like, but we're also hypocrites, right? All of us are. Everybody loves Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC, and it's a $40 DLC for like a 30-hour campaign on top of an already existing game.
Right.
I think that's great. I think it's a great thing. But it's like, oh man, there was a collector's edition for the DLC. Like, I don't know. FOMO kills. FOMO kills
It
in the
does.
video game world.
Well, what about what like so? But is that? I'm trying to think now. Now you would probably you'd probably be the one to ask. Is that just Western games, or is that also games coming from
I
Japan or just from the East? Because I haven't looked into buying Sparking Zero yet, but I want to. Um, I'm wondering what if there's anything about, because I haven't played since Budokai Tenkaichi, so it's like, I would love to get back in. No, wait, no, sorry, excuse me. No, no, I take that back. I'm sorry. I did play what's it called? What was
Fighter Z or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Fighters.
yeah. Yeah, I played Fighter Z or yeah, Fighterverse, whatever. I think I have that one. Or no, wait, no. What's the Goku one? It was,
Xenoverse.
yeah, Xenoverse. I have Xenoverse. I don't think I finished it, but I did play that. I didn't play very much of it, but like I was curious about it because I saw that there was like the story mode, but like I don't want to be I don't want to be spending a whole bunch of money on random
Reliving Dragon
stuff.
Ball
I'm
Z.
just reliving in the because I can quote you the entire show, the entire story
Yeah,
because I've
I've relived that story in many different fashions in many different
right,
ways for basically my entire life. Yes,
yeah,
I would agree to that. Because I'm almost identical to that thought process. As I was like, do I need Sparking Zero?
yeah. Do I
I
need to buy it?
loved Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I loved
Yes,
it.
yes.
But from what I understand, Sparking Zero is just that. And I mean that in a good way, because I mean, you knew it sold like 3 million copies in 24 hours. It's massively successful
Oh
right now,
wow.
massively successful. So there is an audience to that, where people are like, yes, I just need my arcade beat 'em up Dragon Ball Z game, because why not? Like that's what I want. I miss Tenkaichi, and this is a way to play it. So I don't know. There's some seeing those pieces where I'm like, I'm asking for originality, but then this game that's identical to its predecessor from 15, 20 years ago or whatever it was for the PlayStation 2 is selling gangbusters because we're like, we want more of the original. Gamers are so hard to please. And
They must all
I'm
hard to
not
place.
I'm not
That's
excluding
why.
myself
That's
from
why
that
I love
either.
that RDC World video I sent you a couple of
Yeah.
days ago. He
Yeah,
was
where
like,
he's like, we have an arcade world. I like RPGs. He's like, well, we have an RPG mode, and it's like that's pretty on point. I'm all
yeah,
down for being a critique of games. I'm all
sure,
about it because I dive deep into that shit because that's just what I love to do. I just have a passion for not just playing video games, but living in the world of how they're made and and all those things and critiquing what things could be better or what I prefer. I love doing all that shit. But there is a point where we can't all be critics. And
yeah,
we have to be an audience at some point and just accept it for what it is. And I think we were talking about The Last of Us Part 2. That I think that's a prime example of this is my art. I'm putting it out there. It's beautifully crafted, beautifully made. If you don't like it, that's okay. But this is the story I'm telling. And I think that was part of its problem. It got so much flack and so much shit for like, oh, you didn't do what the fans wanted. I'm like, actually, whenever I sit back and think about this general conversation of what do the fans want, we all say the same shit. We want originality. We want something new and fresh. We all say the same buzzwords over and over again. New IP, take a risk. I always go back to The Last of Us Part 2, not just because I'm a Last of Us fan, but just because that's exactly what they did. It
yeah,
is to a T exactly what they did. They took a story that was really rough to tell.
right.
They put their money where their mouth was and told it. And I don't know why there wasn't more of a respect for it. Neil Druckmann and that team got death threats and all this crazy stuff because fans can be out of their minds. But what we can't say we want all these risky storytelling. We can't be like, take a risk, take a risk. And when they
But
take
we
one of the
want it in
biggest
our
risks,
way. It's like,
yeah, you can't
well,
really say that. And I
yeah,
think that's why a lot of these indie games are on a stretch. I'm playing a game right now that was wildly popular that I never got around to. I'm playing Disco Elysium. That is a prime example of this is the game we're trying to say, and we're a tabletop Dungeons and Dragon inspired RPG. We're goofy, we're funny, but we're also quite intellectually well made. Like you have to think to play this game, and it's a lot of conversation, dice rolling, no combat, and I'm not very far into it, but it is exactly that. It's a giant oil painting is essentially what it looks like, and it's
yeah. It looks pretty
beautifully
interesting.
crafted. And according to most people, it is one of the better stories told in a long time because it takes exactly that. It's the story it wants to tell. So what's the difference between doing it on this end of the spectrum as opposed to the AAA space where Neil Druckmann and that team took a risk, killed Joel. They told a heavy story. It didn't have the most satisfying ending, and that's kind of the point, is that this world is unforgiving. So one thing I think also, how did we get here? I do want to be on the side of blaming industry more than anything else, because I do think blaming the audience. Thank you, home arm. This is I do think it's foolish to blame an audience. However, I will say, I do think, myself included, as an audience, sometimes we need to step back and stop pretending like we're all high-paid critics. Again, I cannot stress enough, myself included, because I do this.
Yeah.
We got to take a step back and just be an audience for once. Take it in. And I struggle to do this because I want to analyze every bit, but just take it in and let it be what it is. I think Ragnarok had a lot of trouble with this too, because there are some people on the side that just
didn't like it. Yeah,
it's weird to me, and
I was thinking about that. Yeah,
and that was another set of risks.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that is. I really hope that the gaming community would kind of mature a little bit, because I know I sent that video to you in jest, but like it is so true. Like I hate to say this because I like to think of myself as someone who has above average understanding of writing and storytelling because of just it's like a hobby and passion of mine. But like there can be something that can be said of at certain points the audience doesn't know what it wants. Now, that's not to get mistaken with some of our previous statements of what's the word? Like I don't want to say developers, but just like creators not understanding who their audience is or what their audience wants. Um that type of thing. Like there's a fine line I'm trying to skate in between here, because I
I
agree
agree.
with both of those statements. I think I've already said this in a previous video once before, but it was kind of like I'll just say it real quick again here. Um, it's basically like the whole Dumbledore Grindelwald thing
Mm-hmm.
in the Harry Potter. When you read the book, nothing's ever given. Like there's no details that are given in the books. It's just an event that was mentioned that's mentioned several times that adds to the mythos of Dumbledore, because you understand that there's this bad man Grindelwald who was as bad or almost as bad as Lord Voldemort, who's already established as a very bad person who's very powerful, and Dumbledore already defeated this very bad wizard 50 something years ago, and help shape the wizarding world into what it is today, and that's just adds a mythos. The fact that you don't know the details is the good thing. Is good because that builds him up in your head as like this unstoppable force, and so when Dumbledore does die, it's devastating, and you're like, oh my god, this like how is this gonna move forward? How is the story gonna move forward without our biggest protector and whatnot? But then you watch Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the movies, and you're like, okay, so some high school dropout zoologist, and his Muggle friend with the help of a Niffler, like it's like what you don't explain the magic, in some cases,
No pun
and
intended.
yeah, right. So sometimes the audience doesn't because so many people were like, oh, I can't wait to see the battle between Dumbledore and Grindelwald and all that stuff, and it's like, okay, well, even if the battle is like really cool, like it would be better if you just didn't explain the magic,
It'll never
just
be as cool as it was in my head.
exactly. So
No.
so sometimes the audience really doesn't know what it wants, and that, in my opinion, I know this is a little controversial because I agree 100% with you on The Last of Us Part Two. Like, listen, I think that the people who have such a big hatred of the Last of Us Part Two are almost all of them are probably the same people who keep saying we want new stories, we want new stories, and I agree with that part. But like, you didn't know what you wanted um in the Last of Us franchise, and it's if you really genuinely don't like the Last of Us Part Two story, I get that, and that's fine. That's still valid, but like, what did you want?
Hatred.
Did you want more of the same? Because
Hmm.
that's not what you've been saying for the last
Not what
however
I
many
wanted.
generations. Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I 100% agree with that take. And it's really hard to put into words because, like, we don't want to be sounding hypocritical because we've gone on and on, you and I specifically, on like, these
Star
writers
Wars.
don't know what the ad. Yeah, dude, that's a prime example of like, these guys just don't get what we want. They don't get what
Yeah.
we want. But then you have moments where you're, and that's why I'm really trying to take a grain of salt and be like, look, I'm not blaming the audience because that would be foolish. I stick to my guns on that. It
Right.
would be foolish to blame audience. However, we do have, especially in video games, dude, the gaming fans have a strong influence. That's why we
Oh
have like
yes.
you don't get to beta test a movie. You don't have early access to a TV show. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have a strong voice in video games, and I think sometimes we overcorrect ourselves. And I can't, and again, I'm guilty of this. I do this because I look at things like the monetization and all these things, all the problems that are in the video game world. And I'm like, we need to speak up. We need to speak up. You know, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a prime example of like, nah, we gotta cut this shit out.
Yeah.
This is a studio that brought us one of the greatest gaming trilogies
Oh
of all time, and the precipice of what a superhero video game
superhero.
is supposed
Yeah.
to be. And we wouldn't have Spider-Man without it. We wouldn't have any future ideas without it. Like the whole free flow combat system stemmed from it. Like there are things that the Arkham universe brought into video games for life.
Yes.
It is a disservice, in my opinion, to do this idea of like, ooh, Suicide Squad is really popular right now. Let's make it a live service so it'll last
Yeah.
forever, which is bullshit, dude. Nobody wants a story to
And it
last
didn't.
forever.
And it
And it
didn't.
didn't. It's crumbling
Yeah.
massively. Concord, dude. Concord. We're releasing a story bit every week. You didn't even last a week.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's one of those things of like,
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. That was a good one.
it's true though. So I agree with you. It's a fine line. We have to find a fine line of like, we're not all
Yeah.
critics, no matter how much we all, dude, don't get me wrong. That's why we're doing this podcast. We all wish that we could wake up every day, play video games, talk about it, and that's how we earn
Right.
our income. Some of us it works, some of us it doesn't. And I don't think I'll ever be that person because I can't sacrifice how much I would have to sacrifice in
Right.
order to
Yeah.
try to make that happen. Not even make it happen, but try to
Yeah.
make it happen as much as I would love to. But in terms of conversations like this, I do think it's important to recognize of like, I agree they can't be blaming us as an audience, but as an audience, we have to be receptive. And I think
Yes.
that's maybe where we're losing it is like, we're not being receptive by just bitching the same complaints over and over and over again and expecting this magical result. And some games come along and fix those things. I think a good example right now to not use a story-based game, Helldivers 2 is a prime
Mm.
example of like, way to adhere to the more dumbed down side of a gamer brain, the more relaxed side of a gamer brain. You just need a hilarious talking point, a meta that the whole community can wrap around, and then what's the hook? Oh, it feels good to shoot a lot of bugs and blow them
Right.
up. Boom! You had yourself a live service that actually is successful and it works within its own universe. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, something that
Did not.
desires an in-depth story with a beginning, middle, and end, a climax, a recognition of a problem, whatever the case may be, a hero's journey, cannot just continue. Could you imagine if you watched Lord of the Rings and they get to Mordor and it's been 3 long movies, and at the end of Mordor you find out this is actually Bordor, Mordor's
Yes.
twin of the Land of Isle, and you have to go over this mountain for $30 to watch the rest of the 360-mile journey. See what I'm saying? Like, for some reason in video games we are okay with this paywall to win, paywall to see the end of the story mentality that may never end depending upon how much you monetize us. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what are you going to do what if Suicide Squad was stupid successful? Well, now we got a story that's never gonna come to an end, and it's gonna bug people. So it is eventually gonna collapse in on itself, and then we're gonna have podcasts, and people will be like, well, I mean, what happened to Suicide Squad? Why isn't it as good as it used to be? Well, probably, Tom, because you can't tell 15 different stories over and over and over again. That's why seasons of shows don't really go past 10 without starting to fail. Like, it's that same concept. So, yeah. And to circle way, way back to answer your question of, like, is it just a westernized thing? Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think westernized gaming, because look at Black Myth Wukong.
Right.
Boom. There you go. They're going to have a DLC come out. It's probably going to be cheap, reasonably priced. It's going to add to the story, but there's no skins. There's no battle pass. It's like, and it was $10 cheaper at launch traditionally.
Than most, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope. I mean, I guess you can always just hope that corporate greed will, in some way, go away. But I mean, hey, that's just the way it is. I don't know. Like I say that maybe, and I hate to say this because I don't really believe in like boycotting that type of stuff, but like boycotting works. But like I think that what needs to happen is like some of these companies or like these video game projects need to fail at such a like at a Concord level, like
or even Ubisoft.
Or Ubisoft. I mean, hey, maybe it's already happening. Maybe it's already happening because you're right. I didn't even think about Ubisoft because of course, yeah. They need to fail at a level that is so striking that they're like that these some of these executives can stand back and think like, okay, hold on a second. Like, sure, we were making stupid amount of money before, but at least making a lot of money in the future is better than making no money and ever again. You know what I mean? So maybe that will happen. Maybe that will happen. And I'm not. It's not gonna be next year or the year after.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll learn the lessons of Sony and Ubisoft. Because it's the only the only people who are really gonna suffer are the gamers and the developers.
The developer, I was just about to say, I think the hard part of that, because I agree with that, I do. But the problem that we dig out of that though is, God, we can't have more layoffs, dude. We're killing ourselves.
Oh no.
People don't deserve to lose their livelihoods over this kind of crap.
No, not at all.
Especially developers who are working their ass off, just trying to make a project. Just, I really think some companies got it right. I think I love to give Naughty Dog a lot of credit because they've done a lot of change over the years, and they were the downfall of the whole Sony live service mistake, and that's why we don't have a Naughty Dog announcement right now. And and I'm glad. I actually like that they abandoned the property, even though it cost them a lot of money. But they were like, no, this isn't what Naughty Dog does. We make story-based linear games that are for our fans, and we're going to continue to do that. And I'm like, you know what? I can respect that.
Good for you.
Because they took a massive hit by doing that. Millions of dollars just down the drain to get rid of that live service Last of Us thing. And then now a lot of rumors are floating around that they may announce the new IP from Neil Druckmann. His little sci-fi open world idea might actually be happening, which there you go. I'm actually happy to hear that because that is original new IP from a studio who has earned my trust. So yeah.
Did you, before we go, I just want to know, did you hear about new information? No, this is getting away from video games, but did you hear about Blade being on definite hold now in production?
I'm going to be honest with you. No, I haven't, simply because that's a prime example of where you've lost me as an audience.
Yeah.
Marvel in general. I have not paid, and which is so crazy to think about, because if you asked 13-year-old me, like, if I was ever going to stop watching Marvel films, I'd be like, are you crazy?
Who just saw Iron Man 2? Like, yeah.
Yeah, like
Or I don't
which
know
at
how
the
old you were
time,
then, but yeah,
was probably the worst Marvel movie, and then
sure.
and
But
or like
even still, I'd go see if an
absolutely.
Iron
I
Man
enjoy Iron
2.
Man 2, by the way.
So you can't have a bad time watching it. It's funny,
I think it's
but
a great time.
especially with Scarlett Johansson, she was looking amazing in that one.
And Elon
But
Musk, or
he
sorry,
was in
Army
that.
Hammer.
I forgot that he was in that. That was funny. But like, no, it's just they because all of like the no these are just rumors, by the way. These are just rumors. So I don't know how true it is, but like, um, I am very sad, but also pretty happy because the rumors that I heard of like the script. Now the script has been going through the ringer. So I don't know when this script was in, but at a certain point, basically, at a certain point, uh, Mahershala Ali was going to be. I think that's how you say his name, right?
Yeah.
Is was going to be like the fourth main character in his own movie, and it's like, and his daughter is supposed to it was supposed to be his like the main, and it's like,
I want to see Blade. I'm
what
so sick of it.
what are you doing? Like, what is this? What's going on? Why are you guys doing this and stuff like that? And I was like, that just sounded like a disaster in the works, and it makes me nervous for Daredevil Born Again. Um,
Yeah.
it, it's like,
I want to get back into Marvel. It's where a vast majority of my love for quirky storytelling, like comic books, were a
right,
huge reason I got into. Because that was just such a weird. I don't know if the word's natural, but like a natural way of storytelling with superheroes was like
yeah,
it was corny, it was cheesy, but like in the right direction.
in the right
You
way.
know, what I mean? It's such a weird thing to be like they did it correctly. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, but why? And kind of just go back to like, well, because it's not a novel. It can tell a story in short beats and still be impactful. And these are prime examples of what we've gotten away from in creativity. But I the bottom line of the question is how did we get here? Is like it's just stemmed into a spiral of thought that I I don't know. I'm nervous for the future as somebody who loves this medium. Um,
Both gaming,
but then
yeah.
again, I play some more indie games and I'm like, it's not dead. It's not dead. And even some AAA games, like it's not dead. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
go as far to say that it's dead. I'm not even gonna go as far to say that it's going to die. I just think we're at a weird lull of practices that were dangerous. The live service practice was dangerous for the industry and wasted tons of money and lost a lot of jobs because of it. And
Yeah,
I think we're learning from that. So
I think we got here
2025 and on.
because of I think we got here because of I hate to say it because I mean I suppose you can say the massive successes of unsustainable um gaming concepts.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we got here.
Fortnite's got to die at some point.
Yeah, because
It's got to.
I'm sorry. Like I don't like, and as successful as it is, and I will eat my hat if 20 years from now, Fortnite is just as successful as it is today. Um, but I mean, and I'm not saying that Fortnite's going to die next year or in 4 or 5 years, but like at some point, it's
Please
not going to
taste
be as.
this.
I mean, it's just like Apex. Apex
Mm-hmm.
was massively successful, not as successful as Fortnite, but like who even talks about Apex anymore? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
like,
It'll and you know what? Even if it is successful, it needs to be the exception, not the rule.
yeah,
Because I think that's part of the problem.
it will be
Nobody has
a
time.
Minecraft again.
Exactly. Nobody has time to have 5 live service games that they're playing.
Yeah,
Nobody has time for that because you're expecting all of their attention and time to be like. I'm amazed Destiny lasted as long as it did because it's like
yeah, yeah. That's
exception,
actually
not
a
the
good one.
rule.
That's a
So
good one.
yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah,
But
that is me on that though. So,
oh,
wait, did I answer? Did I answer your question? I did answer your question. Yeah. Okay, so that's me.
that is you. This is me. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought? Not me.
Who'd have thought? Not me. How can you believe that meme's like 10 years old?
No, it's not.
Aura. Yeah, almost. I think it's like 8 years old or whatever.
Have they been doing hot ones for like
Hot ones
8 years?
I think he's been doing hot ones for like 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
That man's stomach
Genius.
it must be.
Genius idea.
Oh yeah, fantastic idea. But
Well, and even Sean Evans
feel
has said that he's got to stop at some point because like it can't be healthy, dude. To do
no,
week after week.
good God, that cannot be healthy. Like I wonder about his stomach. That's pretty crazy.
Totally worth it though.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, he's met
such a genius idea.
He's met almost everybody. Like that's
Dude,
pretty cool.
I think that is one of the most genius ideas on the planet because you just make every celebrity you put on there vulnerable as hell, and they just become real people really quick. All their media training goes out the window.
Oh yeah,
because they're like screw this, and they just give real answers with real people. I think it was probably one of the smarter ideas on YouTube. And
yeah.
So yeah, but we're not hot ones. So
we're not hot ones. We're brewing with company.
Who'd have thought?
I'd have thought that one at least.
I'd have thought that. Oh man. Well,
all right. Well, hey, I like that. Like, well, you've been listening to Brewing and Company. We are not hot ones, but we are. No, that's lame. I'll think of something.
Is that one of those things where you're like in your head, you're like, that's great, and then you start to say it out loud, and you go, like, never mind.
That was not great.
Remind me to never run for president because I can't do that.
I can't talk. Yeah, no.
Well, that's Brewing with Company.
All right, y'all stay caffeinated.